Let me tell conservatives something they already know. Nick Fuentes didn't come out of nowhere. He's a direct result of dynamics that have shaped the American right for almost a decade. I'm talking about dynamics that conservatives either tolerated, encouraged, or strategically exploited. His rise is not an accident. It's a consequence of choices, incentives, and ideological drift within conservative politics. If you've been paying attention, you'll see it. Major conservative institutions, media figures, and political leaders have bent over backwards to blur the line between mainstream conservatism and radical nationalism. White identity anxiety, demographic panic, and conspiratorial thinking were once talking points relegated to the fringe. But now, they have increasingly migrated to the center of conservative discourse through talk radio, cable news, and most importantly, online influencers. When you normalize the language, you normalize the worldview. Fuentes merely took those premises to their logical, more explicit conclusion. Because the modern conservative media ecosystem rewards escalation. It's about provocation, grievance, and emotional manipulation. This change in how the right debates and disseminates its ideas is fertile ground for a media-savvy, algorithm-literate entity like Fuentes to grow and thrive. And grow he has. He exploited the incentives built by the conservative echo chamber, and you know what I'm talking about. Platforms that elevate anger, personalities rewarded for radicalism, and audiences trained to distrust any moderating voice as controlled opposition. Conservatives could have drawn a red line back when Fuentes started to pick up steam. That didn't happen. Instead, many prominent voices flirted with his positions, platformed people adjacent to him, or treated him as a misguided but energetic young conservative. The traditional gatekeepers on the right ceded moral authority. They were already weakened by internal fractures and ever fearful of alienating portions of their base. In that vacuum, extremists like Fuentes stepped in and claimed legitimacy. Because remember, for years, conservatives have leaned on culture war panic by insisting that traditional America is under attack, that existential threats lurk everywhere, and that political compromise of any kind is surrender. The escalation of rhetoric cultivated a psychological landscape perfectly suited to a figure like Fuentes, who frames politics as civilizational warfare and positions himself as an unapologetic defender of real Americans. Who does that sound like? Conservatives spent years cultivating these fears, and Fuentes harvested them. He saw an opportunity and he took it. The current conservative media ecosystem aggressively denounces moderates as traitors, but when it comes to their own far-right elements, they walk on eggshells. Plenty of conservative leaders responded to Fuentes and his ilk with moral hesitation, condemning their words only when absolutely forced, and often with qualifiers. That kind of silence functions as permission, because extremism grows in the same soil where accountability dies. The right continues to benefit from the energy, turnout, and culture war fervor generated by the same environment that also nourished Fuentes. That's what we call a Faustian bargain. You've traded your morals for power. And now, control of the situation has gotten away from you. Mobilizing fringe emotion while pretending to remain respectable worked just fine until the fringe became self-aware, organized, and ambitious. Fuentes is the bill coming due for those years of short-term political maneuvering, and the right is in turmoil because no one ever thought they'd have to pay for it. Nick Fuentes is not just some extremist who happens to identify with the right. He's an outgrowth of structural and rhetorical decisions within the conservative movement itself. His rise reflects a set of ideological laxities, media incentives, and political strategies that conservatives allowed to metastasize. Parts of the movement may want to disavow him now that he's out of their control, but it cannot deny the conditions that helped create him.